We all know that real estate has created more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. We also know that it has created a lot of heartache due to mismanagement, overborrowing, and just simple life events that happen to all of us. Welcome to the CashFlowPro podcast. My name is Casey Brown, and I am your fearless leader. And although we might be bourbon sipping and at times foul-mouthed Southerners, we will always do our best to be honest, straightforward, and due diligent with all of the information we pass along to you. Welcome to the show. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of CashFlowPro, your daily real estate investing podcast and YouTube channel. We are doing a twofer today. We've got 2 for 1. We've got 2 partners that just so happen to be father and son, Travis and Sebastian Winfield. And I usually announce what the company that they're with, but honestly, Travis has got so many things going on that I'm going to let him tell you all the stuff that he's got, tell you the names of his companies, and then we're going to kind of dive in. So Travis, take it away.
I love it, man. Well, thanks so much, man. Well, look, after 24 years in the Navy, I just got bit by the entrepreneur bug, and so I've been all over the place. But I first got into our main company is the Winfield Group Real Estate Team. My son is my business partner and team leader for that. Then I have Inland War Brewing Company, which is a military-themed brewery up here in Murrieta, California, in SoCal. And then with the real estate company, I'm also one of the owners of the nation's first military-focused real estate brokerage called Century Residential. I believe we're in like 26 states now. And then last but not least, I got to do a plug for my nonprofit that I'm on. It's called the Enlisted Leadership Foundation. And we specifically teach leadership and financial health to our active duty military and teach them between having military leaders teaching them and civilian CEOs teaching our active duty military because they get to pour into their future employees. So it's a lot of fun. Thanks for having us, Casey.
Absolutely, man. We're glad to have you, and we're always glad to have it where we can have a discussion-based kind of discussion, just because, you know, it kind of leads to just some different angles. So, Sebastian, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Casey. I appreciate you having us on. So yeah, like Travis
Absolutely.
said, I joined his real estate team about almost over 3.5 years ago now. I can't believe how time has flown so quickly. But I transitioned. I was a big golfer growing up, played collegiately, and then decided I wanted to shift completely into a different direction. And I ended up joining him with the real estate gig. I didn't think that was what I was going to settle in doing whatsoever. But as soon as I got licensed, started getting into it, I absolutely fell in love with it, and the rest is history. And now we're here. We've grown pretty quickly in the last 2 years. Obviously, the real estate market went absolute gangbusters through COVID and everything, so we scaled pretty quickly with our local team. And then on top of that is Century Residential, our brokerage, which has scaled pretty quickly over the last couple of years as well.
So you all, yeah. So now, geographically speaking, where, Travis, are you all close geographically, or do you pretty well work remote together?
No, we actually are. We actually cover. We live on the same piece of property, if you will, in the Fallbrook, kind of nestled in between Riverside County and San Diego County, and we cover basically all of Southern California, from San Diego all the way to Moreno Valley. Basically, you take the 15 corridor, and we cover pretty much the whole 15 corridor.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So there's an adage in the real estate business that I run into a lot of people, because every so often, I don't know, about every maybe 3 or 4 weeks, we'll have somebody on here from California, and there's always this thought that you either invest in California or you manage and do real estate in California, or you do it everywhere else, but you do not do both. Is that the way that you all kind of operate? And obviously you said you're covering that is it I-15, right?
Correct.
Down into San Diego and all of that whole Southern California area. So do you all do both? But are you going to be the first people to do both, or do you do one or the other?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, I'll jump in on this. Yeah. No, I'll jump in on this. Yeah. Like, I mean, our endeavors are to expand. So the way our brokerage works is that we're a nationwide company. We're not franchises like Keller Williams or anything like that. So we're able to expand our team outside into different states without having to do the franchise model and everything. So, which is pretty cool. So, but right now we're still building out our company, everything, our local, the Winfield Group down in Southern California. And then eventually we'll have the opportunity to be able to expand outside of it.
Yeah.
It's something that we've been looking to do probably here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and to touch on the investment side of the house, it's also we've been playing kind of both. I've been watching the market, of course, so I've had some properties and stuff, and I've actually recently liquidated all my properties in California for exactly kind of what you just touched on. And I'll be looking to deploy a lot of my capital outside of California, but having a real estate company in California obviously works really well because it's a percentage-based business based upon the real estate market. So,
Sure.
so we'll look to expand. Sebastian, at age 22, he's already invested. He's already bought his first condo and renting it out and cash flowing that already. So he's learning way earlier than I ever did. And so it's pretty cool to watch too fast. I'm the old guy learning new tricks, and he's the young guy, picking up everything as he goes.
When I graduated college, I did that. I was in a little bit the same boat as Sebastian. Now I was moving towards the single family thing, and then this little life event called divorce happened, and which my listeners have heard me talk about it before. It's not fun. Nothing about it's good. There's nothing good that comes from it, other than unless you're the attorneys involved. But so those little life hiccups aren't fun, but I think that there's a I keep hearing, is it email or
yeah, it might be.
We can have him edit.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right. So when being young, and I feel like we have a pretty young listener base. So if you're a listener out there, just mindful that I just called you young. Okay, so keep that in mind. Everything's good there. But what were some of the challenges that you faced in getting started in the investment part of things, Sebastian?
So I mean, being young and getting into real estate at like 19 years old when I did, obviously financing is kind of the toughest thing to kind of get your hands on.
Yeah.
But there's I was lucky enough to have some pretty cool loan products at my disposal. I actually used, Navy Federal has a great loan product out there. It's a zero money down conventional loan with no PMI. So 100% financing. So I was able to get my foot in the door. Only caveat is obviously you're going to pay a much higher rate than usual, but that was at least I was able to get my foot in the door with that. And then I eventually refinanced a few months later. So, and I'm doing the same thing, using that same product to be able to kind of, get my foot in the door on some properties and then be able to refinance from there. So
yeah. I'm still hearing that. I'm still hearing the zing, like an email's coming in.
That's not me. So
it might be me. Hold on one second.
Just close everything out. So he'll work on that, man. But yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with just the paying attention, you leveraging the assets you have, because I sure as hell didn't come up with anything. And
sure.
One of the biggest challenges I think a lot of people run into when it comes to investing is just the scariness of it. It's the not knowing what you don't know.
That's right. And I think everybody looks at, so there's like it's almost the chicken and the egg theory. You either have money and a deal, or you have money, no deal, or you have a deal and no money. And so you're trying to figure out your way through it. But I want to go back real quick and touch on what Sebastian was talking about, the Navy Federal program. Now, Sebastian, are you past military as
I'm
well?
not, but as long as you have some sort of direct affiliation. Yeah. So as long as you have a direct affiliation, like father, brother, sister, grandfather, even, as long as you can get your hands on their like DD 214, you can become a member of Navy Federal. So you just need to have some sort of connection to the military in some way, shape, or form, and then it's easy. Just open up a bank account, put a few bucks in there, and then you're able to use all their loan products that they have at your disposal. So
man, that's great.
There's quite a few.
Now, just to clarify, there's nothing VA about that. That's simply just a lineage kind of.
It's considered a portfolio loan, Casey. So they basically look at your assets and stuff that you currently have when you open the account, and they may ask questions and stuff and have you prove it if you don't have it in their accounts. But no, it's a portfolio loan, and they're one of the only. I think they're the only institution to offer
Well,
something
I find
similar
that
to.
interesting how they're using that to feed their funnel later on in life, because obviously if you're direct, because I feel like a lot of military breeds military, if you will, like
Hmm.
because I mean, a lot of people watch their dads grow up, and while they're growing up, and they're just like, that's all they know is these systems and this boom 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 boom, and that obviously the genetics carries across there. I don't know why. I feel like sometimes I'm military because, and I know my kids do. I know my kids think I'm military because the way I drive things and make things in a system. But I was just telling the guy that was on here before, that this my guests on this show and the hundreds that we've had, there's a huge percentage of military, a huge percentage of past military. All of the active duty passive income guys, I've had two or three of them on the show, and I know all of them, talk to all of them. And it's very interesting to me how similar, I guess, I feel like some of these systems that we use in the real estate world are to what you do in the military. They have to be. There has to be some draw to it. I know that was the draw to me, because you systemize things, and I get ill when things get out of that system, and things you can't control. And I'm like, my uncle used to throw his hat on the ground when I was a kid when he'd get mad, and now I understand, right? I see and understand exactly why the hat throwing was happening. So tell us, Travis, specifically from you, what was the draw to the real estate business? I know you said you got bit by the entrepreneurial bug, but what was
Hmm.
specifically the draw to say, hey, not only because you could have been an entrepreneur or anything, you could have opened an ice cream shop, which you got a brewery, or you got some kind of service like that. But what was the draw?
Well, for me, it was buying my first home in California, and my realtor at the time was on active duty, and something about having somebody who understood the nuance of being overseas, because I bought my first home in California from Italy.
Oh
And
wow,
so,
okay,
yeah, so that took a lot of trust and stuff like that. And so coming back here, he said, you really should get into this. You have the right mentality for it. And I go, let me think about that. And sure enough, I was drawn to it first just about the fact that, hey, look, I can't help everybody, but maybe if I could show people, especially our military members, the value of home ownership, and how that just something as simple as buying as your primary residence is a stepping stone to creating that passive income. And I know that your primary residence doesn't necessarily create that passive income, but it does allow you to at least take a portion of the money you're spending on something you have to do anyways. Like living in a home, you have to live there, right? So why not at least have the money going towards something that's going to create equity and have an appreciating asset versus a depreciating asset? It just took me, I guess my biggest draw is that I found a lot of pride and being a lot of rewarding, being able to hand keys over to a military member and showing them the next steps. And man, since I've retired, I feel like I've been drinking through a fire hose on learning everything about financing and everything else. Because I'm going to tell you one thing that I'm pretty passionate
I love
about.
that. Drinking through a fire hose, man. I was like, I feel like that every damn day. I'm like,
No
it's just,
kidding,
there's
man.
all the information out there. You just keep, it's like, gosh,
I
dang, slow
know.
down.
And so one of the things I'm passionate about now is teaching financial health. Literally on my computer screen right now, I'm finalizing a PowerPoint where I'm going to start teaching in person the pillars of financial health for our military members.
Sure.
And, because the military does a lot of amazing things, but one thing they're not great at is teaching financial health. And so
Man,
real estate is just one small piece of that, by the way.
you could not be more right. And I'll
And by the
tell
way,
you,
I can go even further to our youth, by the way. A little statistic that I researched is only 7 states in the United States teach any sort of financial health in high school or public school system. Only 7.
and that's sad because, that's what people need the most of. And I'll tell you,
Mm-hmm.
we're about 10-minute drive to Fort Campbell, right? It's somewhat known as a beginning military, or was known as kind of a beginner military base. People that just enlist, they tend to, Fort Campbell is almost like their first stop along the way, I guess, if you will. But it's also matched with they fly a lot of Black Hawk helicopters out of here. And
Mm-hmm.
so we've got basically both ends. We've got the high end spectrum of the massive income guys that are, get $200,000 for making an extra deployment or whatever. And then you've got the
Mm-hmm.
guys who are making like $12 an hour. right? You've got the two. And a lot of times, and I actually, in my real estate business, have been known to like I'm in real estate sales, right? And I have been known to, it's probably happened a half dozen times in my 15-year career, to actually advise somebody that is like 19 years old, sitting at my desk, say, dude, home ownership is not for you. It's not in the cards right now. Now, I'm not saying that it's not wise for you to think about that in the future, but you're going to be here 2 years max, right? You've got everybody's like, oh, the VA loan, the VA loan, the VA loan. The VA loan is good to if you're gonna have some type of management to it as you go through your military career, right? You can use it in different places. You can use it for multifamily. You can use it for a lot of things. But what these guys do is they come in, they buy this house, and then they try to sell this house, and all of a sudden they're underwater because they didn't realize there's a funding fee that's added on top of the loan or the loan value or the loan amount, right? And so people come in here and sit down at my desk, and I'm like, listen, man, there's no way I can't consciously advise you to buy a house. It's just not, I just can't do it. And so with that being said, I'm just going on about the fact that I love what you're doing with that education piece, because there's so many people falling through the cracks on that I feel like the military is such a career, and there's so much potential there that if people just had a little bit of education when they start, they could be so far ahead when they got done.
Well, I mean, I'll argue the fact that this is what I tell people all the time. This is where we're terrible realtors. Because like you, I will literally talk people out of me making money if it doesn't make sense for them. 100%. I've always had a very simple concept. If you chase the money, you're never going to catch it. But if you're truly right about putting people first, the money will follow. So that being said, is when I'm talking to a military family member, if I got hold of that 19-year-old and they were financially set to do it, I will never have a veteran, anybody purchase a home that's going to put them in any kind of financial instability. But if they are, because there are some young people that are financially stable, and you're right, if they're not, then I'll say now's not the time. But remember, it's a marathon, not the sprint. So we'll get you there. But the thing is, what I try to convince them is when you buy, don't buy to think you're going to sell in 3 years. I want you to buy and hold. And every duty station, you buy and hold, because then you can refinance it, free up your VA loan. And then when you get out, that VA funding fee, once you get out, you get any sort of disability, you'll never pay that again.
That's right. That's right.
So there's
and that's what I'm saying. You have to have,
there's some amazing things you can do with it.
You have to have some strategy to it. And that's what I said. I mean, it's the tool there is an unbelievable benefit if used correctly.
Correct.
But it just, man, and you know, in OA, and a lot of people don't realize this either, but if a home is owned by an active duty military person who is deployed, that home cannot be foreclosed on. I mean, it's not. It just doesn't.
That's a Civil Relief Act. Yeah, correct. just like they can't overcharge you on interest while you're deployed. There's a lot of factors. That was a great bill, by the way, that got passed.
Correct. I agree. Because, you know, at the end of the day, the military is our backbone. I mean, the only reason we have anything, because their ability to defend what we do own and keep others from coming in and taking it. So with that being said, I feel like a little bit of financial, just financial, what am I understanding or
financial literacy is what I call it. I call it financial literacy, just being understanding. And I tell people all the time, I call this the 3 pillars of financial health.
Okay.
First one is how to keep and maintain good credit, or get and maintain good credit, because credit's like money in the bank, right? If you don't have good credit, you can't leverage OPM. We all know OPM is other people's money, and that's what we need. Second piece is investing. That's something that I never got taught. I was all just shove your money under your mattress and you'll be good, but you actually lose money if you do that. So it's
lost 18% just this year.
Exactly. So I just tell people look, just that one night a month that you normally go out and party, throw that into a fucking some kind of interest bearing investment account, and by the time you're 67, you'll be a millionaire. I mean, it's not rocket science. But people don't see the long-term effect of it. And of course, the third pillar is real estate, because real estate's one of the few tangible assets you can touch and feel that appreciate over time versus depreciate.
It holds everything together. It's like the glue.
It does.
So,
Yep. Now, there's so many other things you could do, but those are the basic foundations of financial health, right?
yep, that's exactly right. So, Sebastian, tell us how you've implemented those and what your ultimate, obviously your ultimate goal is at the end. Like, what are we focused on, say, 10 years from now?
Yeah, absolutely. so pretty much what Travis just kind of alluded to, those three pillars. I mean, he's been hammering that into my head over the last few years. And we've surrounded ourselves with a lot of great people that I've been able to learn from. So yeah, I mean, obviously credit was a big thing. I got my first credit card, when I got my first job at 16. As soon as I got my license, I went and got my job. Got a credit card, started, literally just small purchases, paying that thing off every month. And then I started moving into saving, just building up a savings. So, I kind of follow like the Dave Ramsey model in a way, having that emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of reserves, just to pay the bills and everything. So once I got that all set up, and also no revolving debt. That was another thing I forgot to mention, do not hold revolving debt. Try your best not to, it's really easy, especially our military. They get these credit cards, start racking stuff up, and it's super easy to get underwater real quickly, the way those credit cards and stuff rack up interest. So having no revolving debt, and then that once you have that piece cleared, moving into keeping that emergency fund built. And then from there, once you have a good savings and a good nest egg to sit on, a little bit of cash, that's when I started rolling into the investing piece. I opened up a TD Ameritrade account when I was 18, and just literally, my thing is I love the S&P 500. I mean, that's what I dump a lot of my money in, index funds, and then pretty much five stocks that I use and trust in. Apple, Qualcomm, 5 different pretty big companies that I have belief in, that I use their products. And then real estate. Once I was in a position, I bought my first place at 19. Lived in it for about a year, refinanced, and then moved out and rented that thing out. So cash flow.
Well, and the other benefit of the refinance too is the fact that you basically, A, you don't have to pay taxes on it. B, you're doing what Travis said, OPM, other people's money.
Yep.
It's just a lot, and basically you're essentially just selling it to the bank for really lack of a better explanation, I guess. It's really what you're doing. You're just selling it through an appraisal to the bank, and then saying, "Hey, I'll manage it." So, but I mean, that like all of that lives up to this whole financial literacy kind of token that's at the end of the road there. So, but now I want to hear just a little bit about you all and raising capital, because you've raised capital, right, for outside deals and used other people's money.
Believe it or not, I've always bootstrapped everything I've done. Okay. And so I'm actually very much more of a conservative investor. Then, because like, for example, my real estate business, there's lots of different ways to do it. And I do plan to get into the multi-units out of state and stuff like that. But up to now, I've played the game of buying primary resident, living it for 2 years, moving, freeing up my VA loan, buying another one, and I keep them. And I built them up that way. And I owned like 3 properties at that time. And just recently I liquidated everything.
Gotcha.
And
that's what you're looking to
deploy. I always tell people, when you start seeing realtors start selling their shit, that should be a clue.
Yep. You're exactly right. Because that means, like, a lot of times, I know, at least with myself, the ears are on the ground all the time listening, and you're always listening for that rumble that's way off, and you try to if the more you ignore it, the worse it's going to be. And so, yeah, like you said, when you start seeing real estate agents selling their stuff, you better heed the warning, because means something doesn't just exactly check off. But at the same time, I think us realtors, real estate agents, are a little bit, I don't want to say, like, we're not that far separated from 08 and that whole fiasco. Now, I got started in 07, so I witnessed it firsthand, went through it, didn't really have a lot to lose at the time, but went through it nevertheless, and saw, and that's what I was going to tell you, when some of these guys were deployed and they weren't able to foreclose on the house here, they like we had a neighborhood with like let's just say 100 houses, 50 on each side, right? You had 80% of them were vacant, 10% of them were renting from somebody, and the other
Mm-hmm.
10% were owners that just so happened to not be deployed or were local, just regular local people that had to have somewhere to
Mm-hmm.
live. And so it was really just a nasty, nasty sight. And I feel like if some of those guys had just had a little financial literacy teaching, I'm not saying we wouldn't have been there because there still would have been a lot of vacancies due to not being rented, but I feel like there would have been a lot less ownership and a lot less people who got foreclosed on as soon as their boots hit the ground back in the U.S.
Well,
So,
a lot of it was the predatory lending that was going practices that were going on back
and
then. I
that's
mean,
what I
I
say.
was
It's
one of them, man.
yeah,
I literally bought my first house in Virginia in '04. I got an adjustable rate interest only loan.
Hi, this is Casey Brown, host of the CashFlowPro podcast and YouTube channel. Have you been thinking about investing in real estate but just don't know where to begin? I'd like to help by inviting you to check out our website at www.3000capital.com. There you will find an array of material that will help you learn all about real estate syndication. And while you're there, be sure to check out our free video series download titled 5 Must-Know Keys to Success in Passive Real Estate Investing. I'd also like to personally thank you for making CashFlowPro part of your day. Now, back to the show.
The worst product you can possibly ever get somebody in. I was in there, but I was sucked in. I'm like, oh, I can buy a house that's only $400 a month. Done. Right? 1 year later, when that freaking arm hit, and all of a sudden my mortgage payment went from $400 to $1,200. That doesn't sound like a lot, but on a fixed income and an active duty military person, that like ruined my world. And unfortunately, I got orders to go overseas. I literally sold my house, not an exaggeration, 2 weeks before the bubble burst in '06.
Man, you got lucky on that one. And I'll tell you,
Yeah.
the predatory lending to military, it's funny you say that. There's a story that goes around our small town here about a local car dealership, who, of course, car dealerships around military bases tend to do fairly well. These guys go from basically having nothing or driving a beater vehicle that's got 100 million miles on it, and then now all of a sudden they got a revolving check coming in and they can afford a new whatever, right? Well, this car dealership, a new version of an older car had just came out. Military guy walks in, deals with the manager, right? The manager says, "Oh yeah," sells him the car, right? Military guy goes in, signs the papers, sits down, signs the papers, walks back out, doesn't even sit down in the new car, doesn't even get in the new car, goes back in and says, "Man, I really just don't think I can afford this. I swear, I thought about it. You know what ended up happening? They parked the car in the back of the dealership until the bank came and picked it up. And it makes me so blistering furiously mad. I'm just like, here this young 19-year-old has signed up, and this is during a wartime. I mean, we were still at war at this time, so it's not like it was just last week where everything's kind of not necessarily at peace, but we're not just full on.
Right.
I mean, so this guy was getting ready to be deployed or whatever, and it was just a sick story, and I was just like, man, these some of these guys got to have a little reprieve to you've got to have a little holdback if you're trying to sell these guys something and say, hey, I really don't want to just destroy this kid's life right off the bat. And so anyway, they made their sale, they got their whatever extra bonus, but I guess.
Well, I mean, look, there's unfortunately, you're absolutely right. Being in the military for a career, I've seen it all. I've seen the 25% interest rates on a car loan. I've seen the payday loans taken. Hell, I've even seen one of the largest. I'll avoid calling out the name, but one of the largest VA loan companies in the country is not a veteran-owned company, and literally charges an origination fee to our veterans that is not needed. It's literally like pork fat. It's like extra money to throw on, and the veteran doesn't know better, because they market to the veteran and they just say, hey, we're all about veterans, but they charge this crazy origination fee of like 1% of the purchase price, which is nuts. That's most lenders don't do.
Yep. And they're doing it because their VA, quote unquote, VA Yeah, they're not. I know what you're talking about. I know exactly who you're talking about too. So, all right, listen, guys, I want to thank you all for coming on the show today. But with that, we've got a couple We got a couple questions that we ask every guest that comes on the show. First of those questions, I'd like for both of you to answer. But Travis, I'd like for you to go first. What is the best book that you've recently read or are currently reading?
Well, I literally just finished it, and it's, of course, Gary Keller. And, I'm sure you're in real estate. We are going through a shift in the market. And so he has a great book out there that was written in 2008 called Shift.
Yep.
And it was just a really good book that, it had some good insight. The biggest thing was it affirmed me that we were doing things right. And it's amazing how nothing has changed when it comes to shifting market from 2008 to 2022. It's all happening right here in front of our eyes. So that was a great book to be able to read and kind of know that we're on the track. We just got to, winter is here. We just got to survive the winter and it'll be good on the other side.
That's right. That's right. Sebastian?
So mine's
best book that you recently read or currently reading?
Yeah, so I just finished not too long ago The Changing World Order, or Principles of Navigating the Changing World Order by Ray Dalio. Fantastic book, really, really insightful. Kind of same thing, but this is very macroeconomic, kind of shows the rise and falls of the last, 4 great big empires, and all the similarities on what's going on. Really, really insightful book. I've been suggesting it to everyone I'm coming across. He has a little 40-minute video on YouTube that I would suggest watching too. Kind of summarizes the whole book if you're not a big reader.
Awesome. Yep. All right, cool. What is, Travis, a dream vacation that you have taken or hope to take?
I have 2. One just did and one that's coming up. I just got back from Costa Rica a couple months ago. It was phenomenal.
Yep.
And I'm taking the whole family to Kauai in March. And so there's if there's one fundamental thing that I think that I just want to touch on is that since I've gotten into financing and actually for the first time in my life making any kind of money, I've been down that road of getting all the stuff. And I can promise you none of this stuff makes you freaking happy. So I've just kind of shifted my mentality where I just really want to enjoy the journey, or as my son recently put it, not necessarily the journey, but enjoy the dance. And that includes a lot of experiences.
That's interesting from your perspective for sure, because you've seen a lot, and the stuff bug bites a lot of people. And man, I've seen it. It's destroyed a lot of lives too. And it's just like, what for what? So all right, Sebastian, what's a dream vacation that you've taken or hope to take?
Yeah, so one that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I'm looking into it right now, is it's a Norwegian fjord cruise it's a river cruise through all the fjords in Norway.
Wow.
It's something I've been wanting to do for forever.
Isn't that
my mom's side of the family's from Sweden. So we go to Scandinavia a bit, but I've never done travel throughout Norway before. So that's been on my bucket list for a very long time.
Awesome. Good deal. All right. Well, Travis, listen, if somebody wanted to reach out to you and learn more, and again, I feel like a lot of our audience is military, at least military past or present. What is a good way for people to reach out and get in touch with you all?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, our website is really easy. It's thewinfieldgroup.org. thewinfieldgroup.org. My personal number, I will happily share it at 619-888-2954, or you can email us at twg@thewinfieldgroup.org. Any of those methods you can reach us. And again, my big passion is we're not just your realtor. We want to advise you on guiding you through all different facets of financial planning. Even though we're not financial advisors, we can connect you with anybody you need to know.
Sure. Good deal. Awesome. And listeners, as always, please head down and smash that subscribe button and leave us a review. Type a review out. Please. We need those reviews to continue getting our messages out there, continue sharing great content like Travis and Sebastian have done here today. And again, guys, I want to thank you all for being on the show today. And listeners, I want to thank you, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day.
CashFlowPro is hosted by Casey Brown, founder and CEO of 3000 Capital, a commercial real estate investment firm committed to providing its investors with ongoing cash flow and helping them build long-term wealth. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified about all our future episodes. You can find more information about us and our investment philosophy by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks for listening.